My name's Rebecca Brewer. For those of you, Okay, I'm just gonna keep rolling and then go back and edit out all of this bullshit because it's too much of a hassle. Okay, so I want to be a speech pathologist. For those of you wondering what that is, a speech pathologist, speech language pathologist is someone who works with people who have communication disorders, brain damage, or anything in that range to get them up to a place where they are communicating functionally. This can be within a huge range of things. This can depend on the original functioning level of the patient or client, depending on what the SLP wants to call their people, depending on what the SLP wants to call their clients. So for some, it's working on a lisp. For others, it's getting them to be able to say their first words. I interviewed a woman named Pia Cisternino. Who currently is an executive functioning coach, which is someone who works with people on their organizational skills, such as time management, studying methods, organizing papers, all of that. In the past, she has worked as... Sorry, I have my notes here. In the past, she has worked at an elementary school, 2 preschools, and a private agency as an SLP. So her educational path is kind of interesting. She actually started at Tufts, majoring in English and Italian, got a master's of fine arts in poetry, and worked at a publishing agency in New York City. Decided she didn't like the office job and that she wanted to work one-on-one with people, and kind of similarly to me, she decided that she wanted to really work directly with people, and while she saw the need for really good educators, she wanted to work more directly with students than a classroom teacher could because they have such large groups, and she already had this love of language, so she decided on speech-language pathology. So after asking her what portions of her job most rely on communication and collaboration, she said all of it, which makes a lot of sense. So in order to do her job well, she has to constantly be collaborating and communicating with coworkers, colleagues, and supervisors. Right now, as an executive functioning coach, her sessions are one-on-one. But she will talk with colleagues about methodology and tools for her students and her clients. I did ask her if she felt pressure to be the best communicator because of her training in speech-language pathology, and she said that she does pride herself on being able to communicate clearly, but it's not a superpower in any way, and she still has to proofread emails to make sure she's saying the right things. She doesn't feel like she's extra good at it because of speech-language pathology training. Now, a big thing that a lot of people are intimidated by in allied health professions is the paperwork and the workload. And not without basis. So I asked her what she thought the best and worst parts of each of her jobs were, and she said, specifically in public schools, you are very beholden to the rules and Specifically in public school, you're very beholden to rules, regulations, and specific procedures, and you have to document everything. So there is a lot of paperwork. When she's doing executive functioning coaching, a lot of what she's working with people on is essentially paperwork. So she's teaching people how to, organize things. So it is very necessary to be very organized. So as an executive functioning coach, she works with all ages. She works from elementary school to adults. And all of her clients are pretty much high functioning. So they're intellectually fine. They just need a bit of help with organization, prioritizing, and time management. As a speech-language pathologist in a school setting, though, she worked with preschoolers or with elementary school students based on where she was working at the time. And with that, the functioning range varied incredibly. So, she could have a child who was 10 years old and didn't say their first words yet, or she could have a child who it's barely perceptible to teachers that they have a communication disorder, but they're not fully understanding or grasping language. So her favorite job, she said she doesn't have a favorite job. She very much enjoys her current work as an executive functioning coach. But as an SLP, working with preschoolers and seeing them develop their first words and making those steps was incredibly satisfying and fulfilling. Cool. Just gonna go back and I want to be a speech pathologist because I grew up with a learning disability and with ADHD, and it's very important to me to give back to the community that I feel has supported me in so many ways. And because a lot of times, when you are growing up with all of these adults who are trying to help you be like the other children, they all were like the other children growing up already. And so it's very hard to not have someone to look up to that kind of made it. And now I know it's much more complex than that. And in fact, being like the other children isn't even always the goal. But it still would have been very nice to look up to someone growing up who had gotten through school with a learning disability. And that's what I want to be for someone, is that person who made it. And yeah.